Aloha, everyone, and welcome to our second Honolulu Community College Community Connections webinar. I am Karen Lee, the Interim Chancellor of Honolulu Community College. Here is our agenda for today. I will give brief remarks welcoming you all. We'll do some general housekeeping, and then I will introduce our presenters today on our panel, and then we will have some time for Q&A. We decided to launch these conversations this year to engage the Hawaii community during this challenging time in honor of our college's 100th anniversary. Honolulu Community College is the oldest UH community college in the state. We offer a strong liberal arts program enabling students to seamlessly transfer to a four-year university, plus more than 20 career and technical education programs in a wide range of in-demand fields, such as carpentry, refrigeration, AC technology, diesel mechanics, architectural engineering, and CAD technologies, and more. Honolulu Community College also offers a robust non-credit program and the largest apprenticeship program in the state. Since we were unable to hold our biannual celebration dinner during our centennial year, we instead have decided to hold these community webinars. We have also decided to launch a campaign to raise $100,000 by the end of this calendar year. I am pleased to announce that one of our panelists today, Ron Takeda from the Hawaii Regional Council of Carpenters, as well as Mr. Richie Mudd, who comes from the roofing industry, have together donated $30,000 toward this goal. In support of our students and faculty, I hope you will consider donating to our college during this special time. If you would like to donate, we will send a link in a follow-up email. Today, I am pleased to announce our webinar entitled, Yes, You Can Thrive in Uncertain Times, Lessons from the Construction Industry. And we have an amazing panel who will introduce themselves and share some thoughts, and then we will answer questions from the audience. For general housekeeping, only the panelists and moderator will be allowed to speak. You may submit questions through the Q&A link. Questions will be incorporated into the webinar as time allows, and this webinar will be recorded and posted to our website. Right now, we will conduct two quick polls, just getting a sense of who you are. I hope you can see the poll in your screen. What industry are you from? We'll give you a minute so we get a sense of who is out there. I do know we have several students who are on the webinar also. Okay, I think our voting is slowly coming to an end. Susan, can you show the results? All right, so majority of you are from the building and construction industry. We're gonna ask another poll now, poll number 2. Okay, according to a 2018 Top 20 Occupations in Hawaii report by DBED, how many jobs were classified as construction trade workers? This is a quiz. Okay. Let's see the results. Most picked 40,775. The actual answer is C, 34,137. So still a lot in Hawaii. Thank you. Okay. Now I am pleased to introduce our panelists. We have an A team today. Glenn Kaneshige, President of Nordic PCL Construction. Harry Saunders, President of Castle and Cook Homes, Hawaii. Ron Takeda, Executive Secretary, Treasurer, Hawaii Regional Council of Carpenters, and Cheryl Walthall, Executive Vice President, General Contractors Association of Hawaii. I've asked them all to briefly introduce themselves and to address briefly this question. With so many businesses adversely impacted by the COVID pandemic, construction seems to be booming. Is that true, and why do you think so? We will start with Mr. Glenn Kaneshige.
Thank you, Karen, and good afternoon, everyone. A little bit about our company, Nordic. We're one of the larger building contractors here in Hawaii. We were founded here in 1938, and that actually makes us one of the oldest companies here in Hawaii. About myself, I was born and raised here on Oahu. I attended Iolani School, and then I went to the University of California, Berkeley, and got an undergrad degree in civil engineering, and then went on to the University of Michigan to get a master's degree in civil engineering. During the summers, I had to join the union and I worked on Nordic jobs. I worked on a 10-story building on School Street. That's an elderly rental housing project. And I got the opportunity to actually work on the circuit court building on Punch Bowl as a labor and a carpenter during summer times. After college, I returned back to Hawaii and I started as a project engineer. I got to work on a high-rise project in Salt Lake called Plaza Landmark. And then I went on to work on the Kaiser Honolulu Clinic. And then I eventually went up to project manager and served also in a superintendent role on other projects, including the James Campbell Building in Kapolei, the Ali'i Place where our office is currently located, several buildings up at Kamehameha School, Kapalama campus, as well as a large airport renovation project. Eventually, I oversaw all the operations as operations manager, became executive vice president, and then in 1999, I became president of the company. The company grew from there. We kept getting larger, and then in 2008, I sold the company to a large North American company called PCL. So today we're called Nordic PCL. We work on a varied portfolio of projects that include high-rise condos. We do a lot of healthcare. We do a lot of education. We've done schools. We've done work for the DOE as well as private schools like Kamehameha, Punahou, as well as Iolani School. Um, and so we have a real mixed bag of building projects that we do. With regard to the market today and is construction booming during this COVID environment? I will say that we have been very fortunate. Construction was deemed an essential business by the proclamations of the governor and mayor, so we continued working. Going into COVID, there was a lot of momentum in the market, and that was being fueled by a lot of capital being available. And then we're in a very super low interest rate environment. And here in Hawaii, where real estate is so valuable because there's high demand for such a limited resource, people want to maximize the yield of the property, so they want to build. There's a big demand for affordable housing that's fueling some of the vertical high-rise projects, and you'll hear more of that from Harry Saunders on how big a demand the affordable housing market is. So I will say that the construction market has been healthy through COVID. I studied the Department of Labor Industrial Relations reports for the period ending September of this year compared to September of 2019. And there's basically, and you saw the statistic earlier, there's about 35 to 36,000 people employed by the construction industry here in Hawaii. And September of this year compared to September of last year, the construction industry is up about 1,500 positions. So we have actually grown very little, but certainly no job loss. So, um, we have fared very well, and I do feel very optimistic about the future of construction here. So with that, I'll sign off, Karen.
Thank you, Glenn. Next, we will have Harry Saunders. Harry.
Aloha. Thank you, Glenn. That was great. Um my name's Harry Saunders. I've been in the industry, real estate industry for, 48 years, I think. Joined Castle and Cook in 1975. Quick math, that's 45 years. Next week, actually, the 24th is my 45th year with Castle and Cook. I came in as a salesman, selling homes, and I sold homes in Mililani for about 10 years with Castle and Cook. And then I became the sales manager. And then I took over the residential operations. And then I became chief operating officer to include the various operations of Castle and Cook, the commercial and retail, which includes Dole Plantation. And then had Lanai added to my responsibilities for about 7 years. And then I became president in 2001. So I've been here 19 years. As to the age of the company, Glenn, I'm sorry, we're a little bit older than you. Castle and Cook was formed in 1851 and was primarily as merchants to the missionaries, but then they went into food and acquired a bunch of land, and then we got into real estate. Go ahead, next slide. Next. Yeah, just a quick count. We've been building homes here. As you can see, we delivered our first homes in 1963 with the Queen Emma Gardens, an affordable project. And we've built luxury homes, residential homes, affordable homes, and tourist homes in Lanai for a little bit over 24,000 homes since 1963. And so we've done the whole range, but the bulk of our homes have been aimed towards Hawaii people, primary residential homes. Next slide. As to the question, is construction essential? Glenn mentioned that we were lucky enough to be named as essential. When you look at the economy and with the impact of COVID, it dramatically hit our number one economic driver, and that's tourism. And I felt it personally, and our company felt it personally with our Dole Plantation operation that we had to shut down on March 20th. And unfortunately had to lay off a whole bunch of people. The good news, I shared it with the team just a little while ago, is we were able to reopen today with the opening of tourism again. So we're hoping to see that aspect of the economy go forward. Number two economic driver in the state is government, state, county, city. And they're facing some challenges, not so much on the federal level. That's helped hold up our economy very well, but definitely on the state and county with they're going to be challenged with lack of tax revenue. And then the third largest part of our economy is development, construction, and real estate. And so naming building trades and construction as essential was an absolute must and the right thing to do. And you can see this is a photo of what we have going on right now. We have over 400 people on site today. I was there Sunday, I was there a couple days ago, and to see the group of men and women working that site, and that's just direct trades on the job. That doesn't count at least that many more doing delivery, cement drivers, making cement, all the various support facilities. So just our Coal Ridge project is probably driving 800 to 1,000 jobs today. And those are all high-paying jobs. Next slide. Okay. And here's just a list, partial list, and I think GCA will have a more complete list. But these are the types of trades you'll see out on our field, and that includes that's the direct trades program. Community college offers all these trades, It's a great start, and we have many of those people working on our projects. Next. What else? They can also do other things, as I mentioned. Inspectors. We rely on building, water, electric, plumbing inspectors, and I really like it when they've come up through the trades and know what the job is, what our people are doing and going through, and they have a better background to truly be able to inspect and know that we're doing a good job, as well as our contractors. Construction management, project managers, estimators, designers, business owners, planners. What I'm saying is that if you go into the trades, it's just the first step, and being able to go through the process and grow as you mature and learn more, that you can grow and be economically viable for your family and for our state. We've experienced, next slide. We experienced very strong demand, and Glenn hit on some of the reasons behind it. And COVID actually, there was initial worry, and we saw initial drop off in sales activity on the resale market. And not so much us, because I wasn't selling yet, but talking to some of our friendly competitors, they did see a little drop off in the first month, some added cancellations, and then it's come screaming back. We have demand very strong. An example is we just had a small release of 16 homes. We had over 100 applicants for it. And these are our higher end homes. Glenn was mentioning affordables. Yes, there's demand there, but there's demand for all price ranges. And a lot of that's because we haven't been building enough homes in Hawaii for the last decade. And there's a lot of people, plus interest rates are low. And we're seeing a certain amount of people, sorry, Glenn, but trying to move out of the high rises, out of the urban, and go out to the country and get their feet on the ground and be able to spread out. And that's been driven not only in Hawaii, but across the country. There is some desire, and particularly if you're working from home, to have a little bit more square footage and not have to be in the congestion. But demand remains very strong. Interest rates are helping to drive that greatly. Next. And it's not just us. Haseko, and the future looks long. Haseko's got planned, was this announced, they're looking to go forward with Royal Kunia Phase 2. That's 1,800 homes. Kamehameha Schools is working on plans on Waiava project. And then Horton, of course, our friends at Horton have over 11,000. And we do know that Horton's going strong. Gentry, I apologize, I didn't have room on this slide to get everybody in, but you can see is we're looking at over another 24, 25,000 homes. And this is just the horizontal homes, not talking about the high rises. And there's been a number of projects announced, probably another 10,000 homes at least on the immediate drawing book for high rises in the town area. So the future for construction looks strong. It is an essential business, and interest rates are continuing to support it. We just need everyone in the industry and those coming in through the trades to continue to press for accelerating the approval process and shoring up the permitting process to deliver homes faster and at lower cost. Stop putting impediments to our development. And with that, I think that was my closer. Yeah, Coal Ridge, building trades make the dreams come true. Your industry, that's what helps. These people build the homes, and actually many of them are our home buyers. So it's very important to support the UH and the trades and the foundations to help our young people grow and grow our economy. Now I get to turn it over, I think, to the guy who helps to make it all happen in his trades, Ron Takeda.
Thank you, Harry. Ron, are you able to turn on your video and your mic?
I think I have.
Oh, okay, great. We see you.
Okay.
Yep, go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, Karen, and thank you, Harry. My name is Ron Takeda, and I'm with the Hawaii Regional Council of Carpenters, better known as either the Carpenters Union or the Hawaii Carpenters. I'm very glad to be here with you all today. I'm a local guy. I graduated from Roosevelt High School and I went on to the University of Hawaii, where I got my teaching degree in secondary social studies. I was interviewed by a number of principals here on Oahu, and they decided not to hire me. They probably saw something very alarming in my interview. So I was working part-time at Love's Bakery, delivering bread, which is what I was doing during the university. And I heard about an opening at the Carpenters Union, and I went for an interview in the middle of my bread route. And I ended up getting hired by an organization I knew nothing about to do a job I knew nothing about. And at this point in my life, I've been on union staff for 42 years. Like Harry, it sounds really bad when you say it out loud. My first 21 years were spent working for the previous leader of the union, Walter Kupau, who was a very dynamic and outspoken leader. When Walter passed away in 1999, I was very honored to be elected to take his place. And I've been serving in my capacity for the past 21 years. The Carpenters Union is a statewide organization. We have offices and staff on all islands, and we represent more than 6,000 carpenters and drywallers throughout the state. There are 16 building trade unions in the construction trades. The Carpenters Union is the largest, not because we're the best, but because on any given job site, you just require more carpenters than anyone else. And in the same way that the teachers union will always be larger than the firefighters union. It's just based on need. Excuse me. We also have contracts and partners in 275 union contractors, including the largest in the state, like Glenn Kaneshige's Nordic PCL. Construction, coming to the question that was asked, I don't think construction is booming now. You know, we're actually in total hours about 20% off from our peak in 2016 when construction was booming, but we've been very fortunate to date. Our industry is tied to the ups and downs of the economic cycles. And in each downturn, our industry is generally hit the first, and we're generally the last to recover. So, you know, in the downturn in the early 80s, we went through that scenario. And of course, a 10-year recession in the 90s when the Japanese economy crashed, we were also hit very hard and we were the last to recover. And of course, more recently, the Great Recession of 08. As Glenn Kaneshige mentioned earlier, construction has done better than many economic sectors during this pandemic. When you look at the visitor industry, retail, restaurant, it's easy to see that we've been very fortunate. And one of the reasons is that this is not a usual downturn that I mentioned earlier, like in the 80s or in the 90s or in 08. This downturn is caused by a virus. And there are a couple of factors that has helped us and worked in our favor during this pandemic. Many businesses were essentially shut down, not by the economy, but by government mandates in order to curb the spread of the virus. As Glenn mentioned, we had a good number of projects ongoing before the pandemic hit. And so with the essential business status, we were allowed to continue working during the pandemic. Of course, the question and the concern for us is because a lot of large projects have been pushed off because owners are unsure as to what will happen. We don't know how long the gap will be between when the current projects end and when the next round of projects start up, because that will determine how deep and how long the next construction downturn will be. The other factor that worked in our favor during this pandemic is that we have an excellent relationship with our contractors, our developers like Harry and others, as well as our contractor associations. And so because of that partnership, we were able to quickly respond to the pandemic, get together and agree on health protocols, and then implement those health protocols onto the job site so that we could maintain that essential status throughout the erratic fluctuations of the infection rates. But rather than get into the details of those protocols, I think this would be a great time to turn it over to Cheryl Walsall of the General Contractors Association, because she was really instrumental and did a lot of hard work in pulling the parties together and finalizing those protocols. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to Cheryl.
Thank you, Ron, and thank you, Karen, for inviting me to participate on this panel today. And welcome, everyone. Just to share a little bit about myself first, my name is Cheryl Walsall. I'm the Executive Vice President of the General Contractors Association of Hawaii. We're the largest construction association in the state. We are statewide. We have over 500 members, which are comprised of general contractors, subcontractors, materials and equipment suppliers, and other companies that provide support services to our industry. We have members in all 4 counties, and we primarily represent the commercial construction industry. So our members work on all kinds of projects. For example, public sector projects like infrastructure, schools, high rises like what Glenn does, hotels, shopping centers, kind of you name it, but our members don't really work on residential projects, so we don't do home building. About myself, I graduated from IAEA High School. I went to school at UH. Didn't really know what I was going to do with myself, so I went to Japan for a few years and then came back. And then I just got into this industry by luck. Kyle Chalk, who is Ron's right hand at the Carpenters Union, was the executive director of Pacific Resource Partnership, which is part of the Carpenters Union. He took a shot on me and hired me for an entry-level position. And we had a teacher internship program to introduce teachers to the various careers that are available in the construction field. And by setting up that program, I was really fortunate because I got to learn the gamut of all that this industry has to offer. We learned from developers like Harry, architects, engineers, and contractors, and we took the teachers on job site visits to see all the different trades in action. And through that experience, I got to learn so much about the industry, and I fell in love with it, and I've been in it ever since. And that was about 14 years ago. I was with PRP for about 13 years, and then was hired to be the executive VP for the General Contractors Association last year. Regarding the question that was asked, I think Ron spoke to it. I don't think we're exactly booming the industry. We are very fortunate to have been deemed essential, but it was through some deliberate actions that we took early on. The GCA got together with representatives from PRP and some of the unions and other people in the industry, and we decided to work together on putting together a construction industry pledge. So I'm going to share my screen right now so I can show that to all of you. So this is the pledge that we've put together. And as you can see at the top, we had 17 different associations. So it's all companies or organizations that represent a large number of the companies that do business and construction. And I'm going to scroll down, and I hope you can see like the text of it. But we pledge to make our job site safe. As a group, we all pledge to this. And so we outlined some baseline measures, safety measures that our industry could take to ensure safety on our job sites and to try to mitigate the spread of COVID-19. And we had a number of companies, I believe it was over 150 companies and unions that all signed on saying that they would be committed to following these practices. This pledge was distributed to the governor and the mayors of all 4 counties. And we also published it in the Star Advertiser and every county's local newspaper.
Cheryl, can you try to share again? Yeah? I don't think I can only see a little portion of it. Do you want to try
really?
again? Yeah, it's not coming up.
Oh, okay. Oh, mine says your screen sharing is paused. Not sure where that is. Were you able to see it a little bit earlier?
No.
No? Oh, sorry. Okay, wait. Let me try again then.
Oh, yeah. For a second there, we saw it.
Okay. Oh, maybe because I moved it. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay, is that better?
Yes.
Okay, so just again, the associations are all at the top. And then there's the text of the pledge here. And then the companies that all signed on to, including the labor unions, are at the bottom. And then coming back to this part, the GCA also created a COVID-19 task force, which I think was really instrumental in kind of putting our heads together. All of these companies, AC Kobayashi, Hawaiian Dredging, there's big local companies, Ikimoto as well. And then we have large companies that also have mainland corporate offices. So we were able to take advantage of some of the resources that all of those companies shared. And we put together, I'm going to stop sharing now. We put together a job site policy that was sent out to our membership so that the local companies who may not have the same kind of resources as these large national companies have were able to implement safety strategies and have a policy that they could adopt and use. So that's a little bit about what we did during the downturn. We are, like Ron, we're kind of concerned about what happens when the jobs start to wrap up that are currently already in operation. But with the low interest rates and the high demand for housing, we are very hopeful that construction will continue to remain strong even after this pandemic has passed. So thank you. And I'll turn it back to you, Karen.
Thank you so much, Cheryl. And thank you for showing that pledge. It just shows the cooperation that had to take place in order for that pledge to come about so quickly. I also want to reflect that I really like that all four panelists had come up through the industry. All of you very early on in your careers had joined from the bottom and worked your way up. So you've seen all levels of your organizations. Why don't I ask all four panelists to turn on your video and audio, and we'll have a Q&A time. Great. So we did have a question that came in about health and safety, but I think Cheryl addressed that with the pledge. I have a follow-up question to that. It sounded like, all the organizations had worked so well together. What do you think has been the biggest challenge in dealing with the crisis? Maybe Glenn and Harry, do you have any thoughts on that when March hit?
Well, first, I think initially nobody knew what we're dealing with outside of protocols of, hygiene, masks, social distancing. And then it was up to us to figure out how to work with those protocols to get the job done and try and stay on schedule and budget. And so that became the big challenge. And people are just, some people, you saw a gamut of different ways people reacted to the virus. Some people were, somewhat nonchalant, and there were other people that were very, very scared about it. And so what was critical on the job was to control that fear, including, making sure our subcontractors didn't try and basically abandon us on the job site, saying they're not sending their people there because, they're not sure that, their workers are going to be safe. So there was a lot of that happened early on. Today, it's a lot calmer. I know when we first had our first COVID case, people did get all excited. We ended, and it was on a large job in Waikiki, where the team felt we had to shut down because people started panicking. But I got to say today, we have protocols in place. So when we do have somebody that has been identified with COVID, it becomes more procedural. And so we do the right thing so people don't lose their heads. So.
Yeah, I can echo what Glenn was saying is that in the beginning, none of us really knew what we were dealing with.
Yeah.
I mean, that was just across the country, government, businesses, et cetera. There was initial shutdowns, fear, policies were coming out, the rules were changing, seemed like every 5 minutes, and we really didn't know where we were going. That was a key, I think, to the pledge, working with the GCA, LERF, developers, the trades, on trying to come up with a set of protocols that could work on the various conditions you see out in the field. Obviously, a condition on a high rise is different than site work, than us doing homes. When you look at my site compared to a site that Glenn has, it's really hard to have social distancing in an elevator.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier when you have 100 acres with your dozers and you're doing dirt work. So we had to amend that. The other part that we haven't addressed is that our business is so dependent on regulators and regulations and permitting processes. And so the initial part, when of course there was the lockdown, work from home, government and the agency weren't quite sure on how to do that. So there was an initial back and forth. Since then, and today's a perfect example of it with this webinar, we've all kind of developed these skills of Zoom or GoToMeeting or et cetera, where we've actually been able to pass this information along. And this is the second or third webinar today that I'm attending. And the communications has greatly reduced or increased, not only here in Hawaii, but with our government agencies and across the country and national leaders on finding out with financing needs. That's a critical part of it. So it's been a process. And I think you're right, Glenn. What our initial reaction, we had an initial COVID case, we shut down for a week. Yeah. But we found out it was one individual because of the protocols in place. They cleaned it, they washed it, there was no mixing, they did some initial testing. Oh, okay. We've had a couple small scares, but I think it's the pledge and the practices that the industry has put in that has made our construction industry work a lot smoother. And I think gave some credibility with the government regulators to allow us to continue as an essential business. Those are the lessons learned.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Karen,
Yes.
Karen, I think,
Yes, Ron.
it might be, just restating the obvious, but I think from the very beginning, throughout all of the confusion and in the long run, as we go through the pandemic, the simple answer is the most difficult thing is staying healthy, observing all of the safety requirements, working within the restrictions. And the reason is that construction is a real time-sensitive industry, and there's not much flexibility. You cannot virtualize a construction project and remotely build it like other industries. You can't take your work home. And so the contractors are required to coordinate multiple crafts and crews of workers. And in order for that to happen, the crews have to be present on the job site because the contractor lives and dies by production schedules and meeting deadlines. So actually, I think staying healthy is the bottom line response to that.
And to that end, I think our trades get it, our guys get it, our gals get it. Wearing masks, washing your hands, practice social distancing. I see that on the field. I mean, you go out in the field, you would think the construction guys are big and tough and they're the last to do it. They're actually some of the strongest. I see more masks and social distancing on the site than I do walking down the block. So I think they understand the point Ron made. They want to stay healthy.
That's a good point Harry brings up. The way safety is implemented today is a lot different than what it was 30 years ago, where it was wild, wild west. The workers and the unions have been really great at supporting safety. They understand that if they're going to keep working, they have to follow our protocols, and high OSH requirements. And okay, if it's high visibility clothes, hard hats, glasses, and now it's a mask, that's just something else that, they just accept that I have to wear a mask if I'm going to be working on this job site. And I have to keep 6 feet apart. And so they adapted pretty well, you know, as we've already said, that the pledge made that really clear, that everybody's on board, everybody's committed, but this is what's required. If I want to keep working, this is what I have to do. I frankly, I don't think we had one case of pushback by any employee saying, you know, I'm not going to be doing this. I'm not going to be wearing my mask. I'm not going to be washing my hands. I'm going to disregard the 6 feet distancing requirement. We have not had any disciplinary action regarding those things.
To that point, Glenn, and I want to, you know, thank Ron and the others trades for it, is that the business you mentioned way back in, you know, in the 70s and 80s was the Wild Wild West. But I think that because of the strength of the trade unions on educating and training their people, it's seen as a profession.
Yeah.
I think what I see out on the field are a very professional performance and recognition of how important the job is, how important safety is. And I think that's through education.
Right.
And that's why, you know, seeing the training programs going on through the community college, and that's the type of things that we're looking for when we're, you know, when we hire. I don't do direct hiring of the labor, but I definitely look at our trades, our subs contractors, to see what hiring skills they have. Who are their foremen? What are they doing? What's their safety record? Obviously, what's their financial strength? And you don't have financial strength if you're not doing a good job and taking care of your workers and the public.
Yep.
Thank you, and thanks for that plug. We do try to instill those professional skills into our students as they are training and educating. And we realize here too, a bunch of our classes have gone online or virtual, but most of our trades programs cannot. I mean, you want to hire skilled laborers and skilled people, professionals who have actually done the work, not just on the computer, but with their hands. So we appreciate that. Speaking of our students, I know that we have a number of them on watching right now. What are you looking for when you are hiring someone into your organization? What makes a good employee?
Glenn, you want that first?
Yeah, I'll, you know, I think first and foremost, you have to be reliable. Half the battle is showing up. You're in a crew, everybody in your crew relies on you being there because nobody puts up a building by themselves. And if you're not reliable, you're going to be without a job because the superintendent can't count on you, your foremen can't count on you, the work cannot get done. We have schedules to keep, we have budgets that we have to make. And if you're not, if you're not going to be reliable, then somebody else is, you're out. The other thing is being able to work with people, because really it is a team effort. Nobody puts up a building by themselves. You got to be able to work with other people cooperatively. This is, again, not in the heydays where 30 years ago you could get rough and tough. You know, we have to coordinate, we have to cooperate, we have to plan. And so you have to be able to work in a team environment. And if you can't, you're going to be out, you know. And another skill that's, you know, you don't think about it, but it is important, is your ability to communicate, because you're working with many people on a job site. On a high rise, you could have, at peak on a typical high rise, you could have 500 bodies on a job site. Mm-hmm. It's an immense amount of coordination and planning that goes with getting the job done. And so your communication skills start becoming critical, you know. And I'm not saying that for the worker, you have to speak perfect English versus you're speaking pidgin. You just have to convey what you want other people to do, or what you are going to deliver when, and making sure everybody understands. But those things start becoming key characteristics of people that'll eventually move up to the point where they're going to become the supervisors, because they now have the knowledge of the effort of what it takes to get the task done. So if those people entering the trades, they have to understand when they join a trade through the apprenticeship, it is an entry point, and they're going to learn a skill set, and the union is going to help them learn that skill set and place them with an employer that will further help develop that skill set, hopefully they keep improving, as well as develop these other soft skills and supervisory capabilities where they can start elevating themselves. And eventually some of them actually become part of management. So they're no longer swinging a hammer. They're actually planning the work, understanding how the work gets done, and working with a team of people. So.
Yeah, I think when you asked that question before, Karen, I said, you just got to be there.
Right.
And when I say that, it's not physically, and I think that's what Glenn was referring to. You need to be reliable. You need to be involved and impassioned about what you're doing. You're going to do the very best job you can, and you're not going to quit. Never quit. You're always going to be persistent and persevere. People ask me, how did, Coleridge, gee, overnight success. We started working on that in 1998, and we went through land use 3 times. We didn't give up. We kept pushing. And it's that kind of whatever it takes legally, but whatever it takes to get the job done. And don't say, oh, it's not my job, let the other guy do it. I'm looking for someone who says, I want to pick that up. And you see it in sports. When you see the guy who says, I'm going to carry this team. They talk about the quarterback's going to carry that team. That's what you're looking for in every one of your people you're hiring. Because I'm looking for the guy who's going to take my job. That's what I want. And that's who I want to hire. Because they're going to do whatever it takes, and they're going to say, yes, I don't know how, but I'm going to learn how. I'm going to figure out how to do it. I want that kind of passion. That's how you succeed in this business. That's what makes our industry so important. Because if Glenn didn't have that, if Ron and his guys didn't have that, if Cheryl didn't have that, none of them would be there. None of their companies or organizations would be succeeding. You have to have that passion.
Great. Looks like Cheryl and Ron would jump in there.
Yeah, I would add, that what Glenn and Harry have just said carries through to any profession. So whether or not you're considering a position in the trades, or if you want to be working for a contractor or an engineer or architect, or even in an industry outside of construction, the communication and the willingness to show up and do more, be present, work hard, go above and beyond, that'll bring you success in any position that you're in life. So take those things to heart. Go ahead, Ron.
Ron, did you want to say something?
No, I think it's already been said. Any one of the skilled trades is a good choice if you want to make a good career for yourself and earn a decent living for your family. But as Glenn and Harry and Cheryl kind of referred to, it's not for everyone.
Yeah.
So in the Q&A, we actually have 2 questions dealing with increasing women in the trades. So I wanted to first throw it to Cheryl, not to target you as the woman on the panel, but how can we get more women involved in the trades industry?
So I do know that it's a male-dominated industry, and there have been efforts to recruit more women into the trades. I know the Carpenters have done so. They have a program nationally, the Sisters in the Brotherhood. And it's like Ron said, it's not for everyone. It's a tough job to be on a job site, and you have to be able to lift a lot. It's hard work. You work, it's backbreaking work sometimes for some trades. So where I see women in the industry more so is in project management, construction engineers, or project engineers, and safety professionals in particular. I noticed that there have been a lot of women who have become safety professionals, and those are people who monitor the job site and make sure that everyone is working safely and trying to prevent injuries. So, there are some women in trades, but it is really, really difficult, just by the nature of how we're built. But if there are women who are strong and willing to step up, they're more than welcome to join. So.
You have to take the construction industry. Trades are an important part of it, but it's an entire industry. And I take it, I kind of back up. I'm more from the developer hat. which is a wider, broad section. And I look at the tremendous success a lot of women have had in that industry. And I can just refer to those that are alumni of Castle and Cooke, but names you see out in the development industry taking leadership roles. Kathy Inouye was a project manager with us, a project coordinator, project manager, wound up being a senior person with Kobayashi and building all types of homes. Then you have Christine Camp, who actually started off as an appraiser out in the field, came in as a project manager. And her disadvantage, and when she first started, moved to Hawaii, she didn't speak any English. And she was a small woman. But she, through tenacity, through learning, having that perseverance that I mentioned earlier, and just being really smart, but she worked hard. She did not. And she now owns her own company. She's done major developments. There's many people, there's attorneys, there's project people, there's appraisers, there's we've got, half of our staff are women. There's sales. Sales, they do tremendous in the sales side because they have something that guys, they don't have so much, but they're not as empathetic. Women tend to be able to relate with people a little bit better, are a little bit more approachable. So they do very well. We also see them in the city areas where we have to go into the desk to get a permit and processing. The head of DPP, Department of Planning and Permitting, is a woman, Kathy Sukugawa. So they're very prevalent in our industry. They don't have to have big backs and strong legs and, muscle to make a difference in this industry. And they can learn in the trades going through the process. So I think women, I would not discount, and I would say they're just as much as part of our industry as the men. And in fact, watch out because they're going to take it over.
Karen, just to add what's already been said, but when I was on a job site, there were no women, in the trades and in terms of management on the job site. Every time I was on a job site, it was basically all guys. And today it is so different because we've had projects we have had in the trades. We had women from the Carpenters. We've had women operating engineers. We've had women tower crane operators. And today, if you go into one of our job site trailers, half the staff today is women. They've really penetrated in the area of the project engineers, project management, safety professionals, and we also have CAD operators or BIM modelers that are all women. And it's so different than from when I was on a job site. And I mean, it's great. And I think they do a great job. And frankly, I think a lot of the women project engineers actually do a better job than a lot of the guys because they're way more organized. But I think I was talking to our HR person, but the last 3 years, about half of the engineers that we have hired have all been women. And so it's completely different from 20, 30 years ago.
I can see women being good crane operators.
I love it. I love that it's changed so much. Even in your lifetimes, you can really see the various changes. I had mentioned earlier that I was so encouraged because all of you had started from the ground up. In your lives, what do you think it was what skills did you have, or what did people see in you that they saw to promote you in the industry?
I'll take the first crack at that. I think it's what I look for too is be there. It didn't matter what your job was. I took it, I went full force, and I never put parameters around it. And I always said, what else can I do? What else can I do? And I learned that actually from my dad way back when I first started working at Alexander Building Materials, lumber yard. I was in high school. And he told me, he says, I don't care what your job is, do the best damn job you can. And I started off filling bags of coral sand and rock. I'd have to do 50 bags each in the morning before I started the job. And then I would have to make sure it stayed there. And I never complained, and I just kept going, and I kept going back and asking, what else can I do? And I've kind of followed that in my career all along. What else can I do? And then I looked for more, and I tried to do my homework. I didn't, I'm a public school graduate, Kailua High. And unfortunately, I wasn't as smart as a lot of the guys kids who got going to HCC. After a year of college, I just went and started working, and I had to do it the hard way. But that's why I say, get the education, work hard, look for more, and never say no. Just say, yes, I can do it. I'm going to find out how. So never quit.
I was going to say exactly what Harry just said. I always thought I could outwork everybody else, on our job team. If I had to work the weekend or late in the evening, I was going to know the job better. I was going to figure it out. Basically, that's how I felt. If the other people on the job are going to go home at 5:30 or 6, I'll stay to 8, 9 o'clock and figure this out. Or I'll come in on Saturday and work on it and, figure this out. How are we going to do this? And that's kind of what drove me. And then if I could figure it out and it worked, that was just a great satisfaction. And the other thing, and I think Harry also said it, was I always felt I had to learn more, and that I didn't rely on anybody coming to me to say, you need to learn this. I had to realize that, I had to take control of my own ignorance, on a job site and learn more, or educate myself, unfortunately, when I was on a job site, there was no internet, there was no YouTube and all that stuff. So sometimes you had to read a lot of literature, or you had to talk to people who you thought knew. And so you have to continue educating yourself. That's your own responsibility, because once you're out of school or formal education, nobody's going to spoon feed you, and so you have to feed yourself on educating to get better. And that's all on your own dime. And that's how you got to keep moving. So.
Yeah, I would agree. Kind of same here. I think both having drive was part of it, and also I was really fortunate to have a really good boss in Kyle Chalk. I give him a lot of credit because I learned a lot from him. I consider him a personal mentor to this day. But he gave me a lot of opportunities, and kind of a lot of leeway too, to try to figure things out for myself. He tried to make sure that I was growing. So he would, throw me out in public speaking opportunities, and say, here, you go and speak to this group. Or he make sure I met a lot of different people in the industry. And so making sure that I was growing my network. And that was really, I think that's how I ended up where I am today, is because through my work at PRP, PRP is there to make sure, it's a mix of the contractors and the Carpenters Union. And so PRP serves to make sure the contractors have work so that the union members all have work as well. So, with just kind of that as the guiding principle, I came up with different programs to make sure our contractors were getting supported, or trying to make sure that I connected our contractors to potential work that we were tracking. But I was just given a lot of leeway. But with that leeway, you can either slack, right, and just do the bare minimum, or you can try hard and have drive and try to figure things out and do what you can with that. So I think, it's through those two things that I got to where I am today, is, really broadening my network and getting to know all these contractors, and then having them wanting me to come over and run the association for them. So,
Karen, I think, Cheryl, Glenn, and Harry are perfect examples of how attitude is everything. When I started in the job, I didn't know what I was doing. but I enjoyed doing everything I was assigned, whether it was fun or not. And I worked as hard as I could, and I never asked in my entire life for a pay raise. And I think that attitude of being attached to the job, wanting to do the best you can, and focused on reaching your goals, that's more important than the other stuff, because the other stuff will happen and people will notice.
Thank you. Oh,
That's a
Karen,
great
let's-
comment, Ron, because that was the other thing I learned from my dad. It says, they say, do this job, you do it. You don't ask how much, you do it. And if they say do 10 bags, you do 20. And then
Well,
the money will follow.
Absolutely.
I
Karen,
won't hire a guy if he comes in and then the first thing he asks me is how much, how many days off, and what are my benefits? Obviously, he doesn't want to work.
Karen, no pun intended, but Ron hit the nail on the head. Attitude is everything.
Yeah.
And you know, I live by the mantra, hire on attitude, train for success. You know, and I've seen a lot of resumes from people that went to powerful university with high GPAs, and they can't work with other people. Whereas we've had other people that are very nondescript, but with a great attitude, and everybody wants that person on their team. So attitude is huge.
Thank you. Thank you all. I mean, that hour went by so quickly. Just because I am an educator, I want to summarize some of the soft skills, professional skills that all of you had mentioned, which I think is so important for our students. You all said, be reliable, show up physically and mentally, work with others, and communication is key. Always say yes. I always tell my team, like, think yes first, say no later. You think yes first. Tenacity, having drive, working hard, being curious and always wanting to learn more, having a good boss. I like to attach myself to good bosses, and attitude is everything. I just love all of those lessons. They're really, really great for all of us, including our students, to know about. I just want to thank you all for being such an amazing panel. We have Glenn Kaneshige, Harry Saunders, Ron Takeda, Cheryl Walthall. We really appreciate your time and expertise as great contributors and leaders in our community. And thank you to the audience for joining us today. You will be receiving an email with a link to a recording of this webinar. And please be on the lookout for more of these community connection webinars in the future. Thank you.
I'd like to throw a quick thank you, Karen, for organizing this and for educating the future of our state and here. Keep up the great job. We've got to have a great university system. ACC is part of that. Aloha.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Stay safe.
You too.
Thank you. Thank you, Karen.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.